It was a much more disciplined debate than last week's.
The reality is we haven't interrupted each other, and I thought the rules were that we wouldn't. I've been careful not to.
Questions had a business focus. How will the Fair Trading Act help deal with unfair, illegal competition from across the border?
But those powers need to be executed, they need to work, and we will work with the business sector to make sure that Fair Trading Act, which is a long-standing piece of legislation, long time in coming, does work under a GSD government.
Well, we're very committed to that, and in fact, a lot of the resources that we will be deploying in terms of how customs operates, etc., will be to stop people abusing the rules, stop those who come to provide services in Gibraltar without permission to provide services in Gibraltar, doing that, protecting our local businesses.
Uncertainty around our relationship with Spain and the rest of the EU is the main concern for small business owners.
What Joe Bolsano does is he addresses things as he always has, as a tough negotiator. We need Joe Bolsano in our corner in government so that when the time comes to review the application of a treaty, nobody tries to steal a march on Gibraltar. The fact is that in order to ensure that we get this treaty and then it hardens, and the 4-year period is not yet set in stone, this is one thing that's being negotiated, we need to ensure that at the end of that 4-year period, our negotiating opponents understand that the people of Gibraltar are determined to protect the sovereignty of Gibraltar and will not simply blithely roll over at the end of the 4 years if we don't like what that treaty would become. Now, that's why you need a GSLP Liberal government, because when it comes to the sovereignty of Gibraltar, there is no one tougher than us.
So Fabian has, unless things have changed, always repeatedly said in Parliament there isn't a text of a treaty. So the language of the clause of the treaty will be extremely relevant when you come to assess what happens next after 4 years. What kind of clause is it? Is it a 4-year clause? Is it a 4-year clause that has a default continuation? Or is it a break clause? He says that it hasn't been drafted, it hasn't been agreed. So clearly the jury's out on that, and we will have to do work on that. But let's not rewrite what Sir Joe Bolsano has said. In July 2023, he said that no deal was achievable beyond the 4 years and that it would be terminated after 4 years. That's exactly what he said in July 2023.
The GFSB members want landlords and tenants legislation reformed.
We have a wholesale recasting of landlord and tenant legislation which we are committed to, and it will take into consideration the issues that GFSB is raising, the issues that the Chamber is raising, and the issues that Action for Housing also raise are happening in the private market in relation to residential areas.
Clearly, there's a need to reform landlord and tenant legislation, which was put in place many, many decades ago when it was a different Gibraltar, where there was less housing, for example, available. So clearly that needs to be done, but it needs to be done in a way that balances the interests of existing tenants who have been there for many, many years, but also landlords. And if we don't do that, the reality is we're going to have urban decay, especially in the city centre.
And the political leaders were asked who funds their political parties.
I'll tell you who we have raised £100,000 from. The 10 members of Parliament of the party, because we each donate £200 a month for the 48 months of the lifetime of the Parliament, and in that way we fund the majority of the expenses of the party, including rents, including the expenses at election time. But I think it's absolutely right that Gibraltar should now take the step forward of publishing also the names of those who contribute to political parties over a particular amount, and that we close any possibility that people simply donate smaller amounts. We should do that, we should do it now. It should be something which is common ground between the parties, and Gibraltar is ripe for that step forward.
Every GSD MP contributes £300 per month, and I've been contributing £1,600 per month since I was elected as Leader of the Opposition for the last 4 years. So that's the reality also of how we fund our office expenses in College Lane, etc. I mean, that's also our position.
An extended 25-minute report on the GFSB leaders' debate will be aired on GBC television Friday at 8.